going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh, my goodness. Michelle, Brock, this means so much to me.
Well, wake up, mid-Missouri. Feel good. The Obamas endorse the second coming, the coronated queen, Kamala Harris, for the president of the United States. Welcome in. Stephanie's back. Did you just do a little green emoji? Just sort of make like a little green puking emoji?
That was so cringe.
Well,
take a knee.
That is
so
prayer.
unnatural.
Yes. That is the endorsement.
And of course, it's taped. Like, it's all staged. We have a video of the call. I'm sure there was a script. I'm wondering if in the background, do we see Michelle and Barack's faces?
No,
I'm wondering
you never
if
do.
It's Obama
Obama
is doing the green face as she's endorsing Kamala.
She's just walking down a hallway, out of a door, by her little, SUV black cruiser there, and she's taking the call, and that's it.
Oh, you're both there. I had no idea.
Isn't that
wow.
interesting? What a
AI.
surprise. What a surprise.
Yeah. Well, and the only reason this is a surprise is because I think everyone thought maybe the Obamas were going to make a run at the office.
Yeah.
Well, and when the news first broke, they issued a statement and said, we'll see how the process plays out. They didn't initially endorse her.
Yeah. And, I have to say, I thought Michelle was going to be the candidate by acclamation at a convention. I thought it was going to be an open convention. This was, several months ago. But
she could still be a Veep. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, if we make it through this next weekend without some breaking news,
that would be lovely. It would be lovely.
It'll be unprecedented for these times.
Well, Trump leads Harris 48-47 in the nationwide poll. Things are tightening up in the context of, Trump versus Biden, although in the swing states, the leads still persist, but by much smaller margins. So, that's a honeymoon period. We knew that was going to happen. Now they're going to have a big, convention coming up. They're going to get a bump from that. So there's no doubt that it's going to be a race now. It was Trump's to lose. Now I think it's his to have to win.
Yeah. I think it definitely changes things.
Yep, changes the landscape. So it is a Feel Good Friday, 573-874-9390, the number. Later on at 6:35, we're going to talk about the budget address with DeCarlon Seawood here in Columbia. Brian will be doing full reporting on that. Yesterday was the Kamala Bibi meeting after she stood him up as the president pro tem and presiding over the joint session of Congress the day before. And it's really fascinating how they are totally remaking her. I mean, whether it's she wasn't the border czar or she was the border czar before she wasn't the border czar. I mean,
right.
Talking points went out. Fox News got a hold of the memo. And within seconds, if not just a couple minutes, all of the major media outlets, the anchors across the spectrum were all saying, she was never the border czar. Well, of course, he never used those words. They used those words, and now they're denying it.
Yeah, major media outlets are editing years-old stories to remove their usage of the term border czar.
And I think people were even trying to edit Wikipedia and stuff. I mean, they are scrubbing the internet.
Oh, go figure,
this.
Editing Wikipedia.
Well, if that's the party of tearing down monuments, right? That's the party of tearing down monuments to historical figures. So they're going to reinvent history. Why not? I mean, that's what they are. They're revisionists. They don't want to acknowledge the truth as it exists. They want to envision the truth as they would have it. That's Orwellian. 1984 is their playbook. It's their visionary model. That's what they follow. And what they say is right, not the truth. It's just what they say is right. You got to laugh at it. I mean, I feel good. It's so funny. I laugh at it. It's hilarious until it isn't.
Yeah, I'm not laughing. I mean, I guess I think, and the other thing they're trying to, they're very good at getting a narrative and sticking to it. And their other narrative is that the only thing Republicans have against her is that she's black, she's a woman, they're racist and sexist, and they're trying to pigeonhole us into not talking about the issues and saying, they don't really have anything of substance to argue against her. They're just all racist. And so I think we have to be very careful about how we talk about her and how we approach the 2024 election, or we're playing right into their hand.
Well, and by the same token, how ironic is it, though, that on the one hand, if you make a criticism of her, it is a racial comment. I mean,
right.
If it's anything but she prosecuted 25 folks with marijuana. I mean, unless it's very technical and very extremely factual, anything about her laugh, I think, is a mistake. I mean, even though we're going to have fun with it, gang. But I mean, from an official perspective, we're going to have fun with it,
The
right?
Kamala car alarm.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, Donald Trump has said he's going to get rough and tough and nasty, and we'll see how that plays.
Well, but she's been known to do that. On her way up in San Francisco and in California politics, she was apparently a real bulldog on the campaign trail. And then someone who wrote a book about her, I was listening to a podcast where they were the guest. They said, in the campaign trail, she can be quite good. She's dogged, she's determined, she's fierce. But then when she gets into office, as 80-90% of the staff have left, she just becomes apathetic.
Yeah, and I don't think she's a really good person to work for. I mean, those stories started really early on in her tenure, that she just wasn't a good boss, and people were leaving in droves.
And but here's the irony, and I think we need to call this out. Every time, and be ready for this, folks, you're going to get called out as things heat up, especially in late August, after the convention, September, October, November. You're going to be at Labor Day gatherings. You're going to be Halloween, whatever. You're going to be at gatherings, walking down the street with the kids, their little pumpkin baskets, pumpkin Halloween treat collecting bags, and you're going to be talking with your buddy or your friend or your gal friend, and you're going to be drinking a beer and say, I just don't know how I can vote for her, and so, but then if they're of the liberal mindset, they're going to say, what do you mean? You must be a racist. Or are you a sexist? And it's funny because that is going to work against anyone who criticizes her. Yet MSNBC's Joy Reid says black people will look, quote, real weird if they don't vote for Kamala Harris. Oh, it's not about race, though. Not about race.
Isn't that exactly what did Joe Biden say a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Like you're not black if you don't vote for me.
Yeah,
or
if you don't
something.
vote for me, you're not black. So it's okay to be. It's like everything else. It's okay. It's okay to be a racist if you're black or if you're brown. Okay,
or
but
if
not
you're
if
Joy
you're
Reid.
But it's not okay to make a comment about someone who happens to be black or brown's policy. That's racist. And anyone who doesn't realize the on-face, a priori absurdity of that is a fool. They're a fool. Now, how are you, Brian Hauswirth? How was the talk yesterday?
DeCarlin Seawood's address was very interesting. A lot of big news there. I would just say one thing about what you're talking about on the issue of the presidential race. Let's remind people, we were all there when I was there covering it. You were there, Randy, as well, when former President Trump came to Columbia Regional Airport in 2018. Traffic jams that I quite frankly can't remember ever seeing at that airport. It was that jammed. Couldn't make a cell phone call for about 3 hours afterwards because there were so many people. But notice the crowd. And I don't think the media really noticed this. I certainly did. There were quite a few African Americans in the audience cheering on Donald Trump. Demographically, they appeared to be older. I noticed that. I'd say 40 plus, but there were quite a few. So again, he has, in his aim is to increase the amount that he got in 2016, increase the amount he got in 2020, and we'll see what happens. But you just heard what Joy Reid said there. You referenced it, so that'll be something that I'm sure will come up. That will be interesting to watch.
And that is the problem. And I think at some point, maybe Donald Trump is the right man for this time. The minute that he gets called out for being a racist, he needs to really fight back with not fire, but with napalm. I mean, he needs to fight back. We need to all fight back. The minute that any criticism is taken as either racist or, for that matter, sexist, we say, oh, so you must not have a policy position, right? Do you want to talk policy, or do you want to talk about personality and all the nonsense that doesn't make sense? If you have a weak policy, you make ad hominem attacks. That's what you do. So your policy must be worthless. It must be drivel. It must be like a s'more dripping off of the end of the stick.
You said it right.
I just thought, I practiced all night.
Yay.
After I was corrected yesterday.
If you have no idea what we're talking about, go check out the video posted on the Wake Up Missouri Facebook page.
Yesterday, I got chastised and I got, oh my God, excoriated because I said some more. Now, my daughter heard that. Shannon said, I don't know what it is about the Toblers, but we grew up and that's what we always said, some more. That's what we did. So I don't know. See, that's my dad and mom. That's the way I grew up too. So
see, I tried to blame it on the St. Louis.
No, it's just.
But
it's just
we have a coworker in the building who's from St. Louis, and he very quickly was like, nope, don't put that on us.
Heck, we even went outside the state to weigh in on it.
Yes.
Doug Coda.
I know. Doug Coda said, no.
What I love is when Randy takes some heat on the show, as soon as we go to a commercial break, he has to run out into the green room and find any of our coworkers that he thinks might back him up on it.
100%.
And then they always disagree and he gets upset.
Wait a minute. Now, but you have to have allies. You have to have allies. It's hard in this world. I mean, if you're the Ukrainians, you got to have some allies fighting against all the evil empire that can be Stephanie and Hannah when they go after me on my colloquial mistakes.
Poor Brian Hansen just sitting at his desk trying to get work done.
Oh, and he
and
never
Randy's always out
validates
there,
me.
Brian, can you believe what the girls are saying?
Hey, we do have winners and losers at 8:35, and later on we are going to talk about a serious subject that has come to my attention. That the more and more people I talk to about it, they go like, "No, that can't be. Non-citizens and illegals can vote in this state. It's possible." It came up in the gubernatorial debate last night with Ashcroft and Eigel. They had a podium there for Kehoe because the speaker said. Now wait a minute. The host said.
Mark Maxwell
said.
Pretty.
We
tough,
were in
tough
conversations for a long time with Mr. Kehoe's campaign, and there were opportunities to discuss different scheduling, and they did not want to address that. They made that very clear. They went out of their way to do that.
My favorite is on Twitter, everyone who says, I can't vote for someone who won't debate. And I said, well, I guess you're not voting for Trump then. And they're voting for Trump. And I'm like, why do different rules apply here? They don't.
Yeah.
So at least be consistent.
But I thought it was an interesting thing. But at any rate, they talked about non-citizen voting, and it is possible.
the complexity, the nuance, and the history of the region. Let us all condemn terrorism and violence.
That was Kamala Harris yesterday, and this is Stephanie Bell with the Daily DC Rundown.
Now, she is sticking like glue to that script. If you see her, she is reading word for word. Now, she's been caught. Yeah, you wonder, did the Obamas write that?
Then she walks right off.
And who wrote that? I
Yeah.
mean, her speechwriters were terrible in the beginning, and they were all leaving. We heard a lot about that. So, I mean, I think we've had a long time questioning with Joe who's running the show. Clearly, those are not her words, and that it was a prepared statement, although she delivered it without any fumbles and
Very presidential.
is a much stronger candidate than Joe, so we really don't want to be caught on our heels here. At the same time, while she was giving these remarks, House Republicans voted to pass a resolution to criticize her on immigration, despite the mass media and everyone else's attempt to scrub any reference to her and the border from the interwebs. Actually, there were, I think, 6 separate Democrats. Was it 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6-ish Democrats that also supported this resolution and basically, condemning her about the border and her lack of action there. Also, we will, Jill Biden, the clock is running on her. She's going to make the most of it. So she is over in France for the Olympics. She will attend the opening ceremonies. So she's going to squeeze every last drop out of her time as First Lady. At the same time, we've been kind of following these funding bills in Congress. House Republicans did not pass the 12 bills that they had intended to pass. And of course, they are off on a break until essentially Labor Day. This becomes a problem because the new budget year starts October 1, so September 30 is that big deadline. Senators did pass some of the government funding measures. They cleared 7 of the 12, which still isn't what we need.
I don't know. They're setting themselves up for a cliff.
And then it becomes an election issue, right, Randy? And it's who is, who's causing the dysfunction and what's the dysfunction over. We heard earlier in the week there's some consternation, I think, over the energy packages in particular, and then also some abortion language in some of the other bills. But you got to decide if you're going to get. We keep hearing, even from people in our state, we're going to get this done, we're going to get this done, we're going to get this done, and here we are again.
And then that's just going to lend to more of that infighting and more of the when there was nothing but talk about unity within the party, and then it gives the other side that side. Look, who's destroying now? Who's really divisive?
It becomes an issue. The other thing that we heard yesterday was a new GDP number. Apparently, the forecast was 2.1% growth, and we hit 2.8% growth. I can see the Harris campaign kind of grabbing onto that and saying, look, Bidenomics, like everything's going swimmingly.
Yeah, there's some other stories, though, about spending, consumer spending under the yesterday. Was there a lot to feel good about, Brian?
I think there was a lot of positives. There's a lot of challenges as well. I'll give you just a quick summary, and I have much more at 939theeagle.com. To me, and I'll have a lot more on Monday, Tuesday, literally I could have come out of there with 25 stories because he talked about so much. It was a panel discussion. But to me, the two most important things they talked about were public safety and the issue of affordable housing. And Randy, you talked about this yesterday, and I pushed back on you a little bit, and the numbers back me up as to what I was telling you about his proposed budget. Into Carlin Seawood's budget, this is fiscal year 25, $68 million, or 51% of the general fund budget goes toward public safety. And of that $68 million, $33 million, which is about 25% of the general fund, is allocated to CPD. So public safety continues to be a huge priority. Jill Schluty points out that 82% of their their budget is for personnel costs.
Well,
so
what is that? How does that relate to last year's budget? Is it an increase? Is it stable? Is it
it's up. I don't have exactly how much, and I know it is up. It is up. The budget itself, the budget is increased from it's $558 million. In last year's budget was $546. So the budget itself is up $12 million. Okay. They've gotten down the vacancies. They've made that very clear. They were 37 the last time you and I talked. It's now down to 30, 28 officers that they're down, two sergeants. So they're making progress.
So you say what percent of the budget then overall to total public safety?
Okay.
56%?
$558 million total proposed budget.
And that's what percent of the budget?
$68 million is for public safety, which is they have a general fund. This gets a little complicated. They have a general fund, and 51% of the general fund is for public safety, but it's $68 million out of the overall budget. Okay. Of that, because fire department's going to get a lot too. Of that $33 million goes to CPD, and as Jill Schluty points out, of their $33 million, about $27 million is dedicated to personnel, but they have to have heat. I mean, they got to have cars, things like that. So obviously that was big. I think the other thing is affordable housing. And he talked about, and I actually talked to him at the press conference, they're going to have they're proposing an affordable trust fund for the city of Columbia that would help people with down payment and rental assistance. He's proposing starting it with $1.5 million. And he told me the median income in Columbia, Randy, is $60,000. Well, the average price of a home sold in Columbia in June was $355,000. By the way, Ashland higher than that, about $392,000. You can't find a home in Ashland for about under $400,000.
Stephanie's going to be a next developer.
Yeah, I mean, it's Ashland's
There's
real
a
estate.
house in my neighborhood for sale that is listed for twice what I paid for the same size house 8 years ago.
Don't forget our deal, though, Steph. You said I could put a tiny home on that extra lot next to you.
Come on. We're welcoming more people every day.
Yeah, in Ashland's skyrocketing, but in Columbia it's $355,000. The last thing I'd point out is DeCarlin Seawood said if you're making $60,000 median income, really the most you should be able to pay for a house is $180,000. He said it basically is it's no more than 30% of your gross income. So I just I've asked this question on our Facebook page. I ask it to our listeners now. How many of you can afford a $355,000 house?
Not me.
And
the bank told me so.
Yeah.
That was average or median?
That was the average. That was the average price of a home sold in Columbia.
I wonder what the median is, because it doesn't take a whole lot of $1 million and $2 million homes to raise the average. But if the median, which is the 50th percentile, it may be much lower. I don't know.
It's. I have the numbers on my desk. I read it last night. Ballpark. And
not much difference.
It's about 325,000.
Okay. Not much.
So fairly close. It's still high.
And anecdotally, I mean, like what Hannah has shared with us here, and I have friends who have young kids or young professionals who are trying to get into Ashland, and I hear the exact same thing. I mean, there's just really limited inventory in any sort of price range. Even if you wanted to go to like 200, it's really tough to find. What
is driving? Is it demand? Is it materials cost? What is it that's
there's not a lot of people selling right now, because why would you? You're giving up a 2 or 3% interest rate, and now it's above 7%. Yeah. I think my husband and we were quoted somewhere around 7.5%. So people just aren't willing to sell their house because, yeah, you can get a lot more than you bought the house for, but then you're going to have to turn around and try to buy something.
Now, Hannah, you always say that I'm having a hard time feel good on Friday because it's, I'm poopy. You always call me poopy. You want to feel good? Everyone out there who's complaining about mortgage rates, you want to feel real good? In the 90s, we paid 12%.
That makes
this isn't going to make me feel good.
12%.
That makes me want to
cry. They were getting a bargain.
So you're getting a bargain. Look at you, feel good. We're in the money. Oh yeah, we're in the money.
But Hannah's right. I mean, like technically, I have all this cash now in my house, but then and I keep telling my husband like, let's sell. But where are you going to go? Unless I buy a tiny home or like an RV, or I just like move to Italy, which maybe I will do. It's cheap there. You can't really. It's not like liquid, right? Like. I can't get a house for what I've invested right now, and it would just all be gone.
If Kamala Harris wins, you might as well. You'll be living in socialist Italy, but before long.
It would be very interesting, and the rent is real high. And the only other note from that ties in with everything. Too. Well, the rent. I mean, you're going to be paying $1,000 for just about anything in Columbia. He is proposing, he being Mr. Seawood, $1.5 million for this affordable housing trust fund. They'd use that to help people with down payment assistance, rental assistance. That's a start. But you know this. The city of Columbia has about 135,000 people right now. 1.5 million, that's going to go pretty quickly. So that is that. But I'll have a lot more next week because he talked about other stuff as well. And inflation is really hurting the city of Columbia, too.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's the report on the budget discussion with Mr. Seawood yesterday. So it's good that it a little bit late to the party, understanding that public safety is job number one. Not.
It's almost like we've been trying to tell them that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you really do have to judge the success of this, and I guess commend. We're thankful that finally getting on top of it here. But what about the lives lost? What about the injuries sustained? What about the business and the commerce that may have been stifled and remains potentially stifled that could have been unleashed if the community and patrons of those businesses and would-be business owners and would-be business expanders felt as though this was a airtight, secure community? I mean, this is a place where there might as well be gates on the entrance to Columbia, and by God, you come in here and you're going to be safe. Now, I know that's an aspirational goal, but that's job number one, isn't it?
But I mean, I think it falls on the people of Columbia in not voting for the right representatives.
Amen.
I mean, I don't blame any of the current leaders inside the organization. I think they are working really hard, but like things like I forget the name of the program, but they really wanted it was technology that would allow them to pull from the cameras.
Oh yeah,
remember?
Right.
And they showed up, and Chief Jones went in, and they had support. The law enforcement said this is going to help us catch the bad guys. It's going to help us catch them more quickly. It's not, essentially it's not allowing us access to anything we wouldn't otherwise be able to get. We just get the access a little bit quicker, which is really going to help us crack down. And it was the elected officials in Columbia that said, nope. And that's on us because, well, it's not on me because I don't vote in Columbia, but it's on the people in voting for representatives who haven't listened to law enforcement and haven't given law enforcement the resources that they are telling you that they need.
That's right. I forget what that was called, but I remember that it was voted down, and that would have enabled officers, investigators to access with permission, right? With permission. It was an opt-in thing where business owners could say, hey, yeah, you can get into my...
Fusus, I think was the name of it.
You can get Fusus. Exactly. You can get into my my hard drive that has all the archived, surveillance video. Sure.
Like my Ring camera or whatever.
Yeah, without having to, I guess, go there and get something signed. So expediency is so important in those investigations, right? And that would have really enabled that. And for some reason, we got to build homeless hotels instead of, just support the police. And I don't know. I just... got a problem with it.
Fulton, we've heard that Fulton is moving ahead with a partnership with a lot of business owners with a similar kind of surveillance camera system there, and it's all voluntary if you want to take part in them. But they're getting a lot of positive pushback on their side.
Well, but if one of the cities that the mayor visits on her foreign, agenda,
she hasn't been anywhere for a while. Is she going on your trip? She. There for a while.
That'd be something.
She was, I think she was like every month in a different country. Has she really been in Missouri for 2 months?
Well, maybe if one of the sister cities that she goes to, if they adopt it, maybe that it would be good for us, right? Because she goes there to investigate what other cities are doing. So I think in Europe and those places, I think that kind of surveillance is maybe not opt-in. I think there's a lot more Big Brother watching you when you're in the streets of Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
Look at the streets of Paris right now, if you don't believe that.
I think that's right. I remember hearing from a friend who had COVID but also had a dog. She was living in Germany, and she was like, I had to dress in all black and go out in the middle of the night to try to walk my dog because I wasn't allowed out of my house. And like I don't know that I don't know that there were cameras, but her neighbors were going to tell on her, and the government, like, you got a big fine if you like broke the rule.
Well, remember the videos out of Australia when we always thought Australia was sort of independent and you had freedom, and how they were arresting people as they walked out of their doors and slamming them to the ground, taking them to jail. I mean, oh my goodness.
No, we had people in mid-Missouri ratting out their neighbors for having too many people at barbecues at the height of the pandemic.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, hey, it's time we talk. We're going to reprise this discussion we had yesterday.
Smith of him. Cody Smith was making fun of himself being bald, and
Can you
Donald was
believe
just.
that?
That's a rare moment for
That was
Trump,
rare.
though. Really, he
Yeah.
usually doesn't address it.
And his ear looked pretty good. I got a little glimpse of his ear. It looked like it was uncovered, and it looked fairly anatomic to me. I don't know.
I mean, knowing what they can do for movies and stuff, like how do we know that's even his ear?
Well, that's true.
I don't know, but it looked pretty good.
Photoshopped.
Hey, so yesterday we wanted to talk a little bit about yesterday's discussion about road rage, and you weren't here, Stephanie.
Who has road rage?
So we thought, well, now
I'm guessing.
hang on a minute, hang on. Now, you know what the tell is on that, Stephanie?
What?
Your outrage over the construction that is going on
There it is.
down in Jefferson City, right?
It's actually, I was talking with some friends from MoDOT yesterday, and I told them, great job. It's actually been way better than I thought. I have had no problems, and I am absolutely pleased.
That's because Stephanie calls balls and strikes. There she is.
Yeah.
She is the judge and the counselor all in one, depending on what we're talking about.
And I'm also going to take credit for it because I'm hopeful that the fact that we've been freaking out over it all summer maybe helped them devise a plan that kept traffic moving.
That did indicate that perhaps you have the potential. I'm just speculating. Perhaps you have the potential to express a little discontent. Discontent when you're on the road, not winning because you like to win.
I mean, if I'm in a hurry, like I get frustrated, but I wouldn't say like I have particularly. I know people who have road rage. I don't, mainly because like I am a perfectionist, and so if you honk at me, like it ruins my whole day. Like I don't want to be wrong, and I don't want to like feel like you think I did something wrong.
Okay.
And so I hate when people honk at me. So I try to like return that favor and not be like. The only time I will honk at someone is if I think they're actually going to hit me. But I think I'm pretty good. I have like weird driving icks though. Like other things make me like more crazy. So. And
Do
it
we
happened
need
to
to
me
call
yesterday.
Do we need to call Chris Bell and fact check everything
Yeah,
that
I'm
you're
wondering,
saying?
do we need to do a little bit of some fact checking?
I
here?
will also say like I'm a passenger princess. I don't drive a lot. I hate driving. So if I can get away with not driving, I usually am not the driver, and so that helps out a lot.
Steph, on the what if side, what if he'd been caught in some of that lake traffic over the weekend we saw pictures of?
Yeah, I would have been unhappy, but the other things weird me out. Yesterday, people who drive with their hand out the window, like just because they're like feeling the air, like they're like a dog's face. Like I can't.
Once in a while,
get
that's
your
sort
hand.
of fun.
No, get your hand in the car.
Why?
Like I will. That makes me more mad than like bad driving. I don't know. It's weird.
That's freedom. That's just the feeling of freedom.
You're not a dog. Put your hand in the window.
Okay. Can I share with you one of the things that I struggle with that I don't really, give people the finger or anything but what gets me really angry is when I'm a right lane rider, like you're supposed to be. I ride in the right lane. This typically only happens on Highway 70 for some reason. I don't know why, because I guess the congestion there.
Because we need that third lane.
So yeah, it's going to be good when that happens, like in 3010. Okay, so
whatever.
Okay, so you're behind someone and you're going 72-ish, 73, whatever. You're pushing a little bit. And then but you've then finally run out of free right lane because now a truck or someone is in front of you trailing something with their U-Haul and they're going 68 and 70. It's time to pass them. I don't generally get out and if there's someone coming up pretty quickly behind me to the left in the passing lane, I don't pull right out in front of them. So I make sure that there's a lot of room there, okay? At least 100 yards, maybe or more, and I pull out, but I don't go 85 miles to pass the truck that's in front of me.
So then you're a slow left lane driver, and people get.
But I am going over the speed limit. I'm maybe 75-ish, 76, and then these people. I mean, I wonder if it's a cop pulling me over. The lights are flashing. They're on my bumper.
But he doesn't get road rage.
I will admit I've tapped the brakes once or twice.
That's rude. I would say
that's not rude. Who's being rude?
More like I am more likely to have shopping cart rage than road rage. In that, like, if you're going slow in the grocery store, I feel like I want to like bump you.
But what I want to do is have a big sign. I want to have a big neon sign. Maybe I can get that at my exclusive.
You have to speed up. That's the passing lane. You're not allowed.
But I
to
do speed up a little bit.
No,
but I'm not
you're not allowed
to go
to do
80.
72 in the left lane.
I didn't say
sorry.
72. I said maybe 76. from the ones my grandkids gave me. So.
That's sweet.
Your grandkids gave you that?
Yeah. It is a feel-good Friday. Yeah, well, it's got the stars and stripes, and because their dad is a military guy, service member. Okay, now, so it's a feel-good Friday. Representative Adam Schwadron joins us. Of course, he's from the St. Louis area, down in the metro St. Louis area, and a candidate for Secretary of State. And it is a feel-good Friday. We welcome you into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Wanted to talk with you, Adam, about voter integrity as well as other things. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good. Hey, it was good to see you at the Boone County ice cream Republican ice cream social the other day in the pulled pork. Sorry that there wasn't enough pulled pork for you and I to really clean up even more, because I noticed you and I really love our pulled pork, right? I mean, it was really fun. It was good.
Oh yes, no, it was a great event, and thankfully there was plenty of ice cream.
Yeah, plenty of ice cream. Okay, now it is a feel good Friday, so in order to break the ice with you, first of all, we have to ask you. Certainly, you have sat around a campfire, and you've taken a couple pieces of graham cracker, a little bit of a Hershey's bar, and a marshmallow, and roasted it over the fire. What do you call that item?
Oh, that's a s'more.
Oh,
thank you, Adam.
Okay, and for our next guest, thank you for being with us, Adam Schwadron. No.
If you haven't seen the video that's posted on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri Facebook page about how Randy chooses to pronounce that, you might want to go check it out.
We've been having some fun because I grew up, and my family, my kids have been texting because they heard this yesterday. We were talking about it. I just said some more because that's the way I grew up saying it. But clearly, only one person on our text line has said it. Randy's right, so I must be wrong.
You are wrong.
Okay.
Well, we know. So you were hanging out with us in Boone County earlier this week, but tomorrow marks 10 days before the primary. I mean, we are in the home stretch. What does the next 10 days look like for you?
It's a lot of travel around the state. I know my message has gotten out there, met with voters, and so just continuing to get out there, meet with more voters, answer their questions, and just pound the pavement. Last night I was down in McDonald County, which is the far southwest corner. I actually got to stop by the Tri-State Monument, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri. And so I walked from state to state real quick. And now I'm heading back down to southwest Missouri to go to Greene County for a pachyderm club meeting there. And Saturday I'll be in Phelps County. Sorry, they're all running together now. But yeah, just getting out there, traveling the state, and meeting with as many people as possible.
Okay, Adam, I know that there's a lot to talk about, but I did bend your ear, and I appreciated you talking with me, the other night on the event about this. Some very good friends of mine are very, very concerned. They come from a state out west. They've moved into the area. They've done a little worry about or investigation into voter integrity, election integrity. They went to a local county clerk's office, and they were told that basically in order to register to vote, essentially, you can perjure yourself and say, I am an American citizen. You just need to check the box. No proof of citizenship needed. A photo ID, which can be obtained without being a citizen. And you're in. You have a voter registration. You can vote. So therefore, they conclude, and they were stunned. I was stunned, Adam, as I told you. My jaw dropped when they told me what their investigation said, that everyone thought we're number 3 or 4 or 5 on the heritage integrity list in election integrity. We thought that illegals, non-citizens couldn't vote. What's the truth? I know you've been on this as a state rep.
Yeah, there are cases where we've had non-citizens who were successful in being registered to vote, whether they did it or someone else actually signed them up. A lot of times what we see because of the motor voter bill in 1993, where someone will go get a driver's license that is a non-citizen. And we're not talking strictly illegals here. We're talking people that are also here legally that are working to become a citizen. And so they go get a driver's license, and the Department of Motor Vehicles, they'll always ask, would you like to register to vote? And the person may not realize that they are not able to, and they get signed up to vote. So we've had many cases like that. And the unfortunate thing is that can actually jeopardize a person's ability to become a U.S. citizen. Because if they accidentally vote because of that, they could be charged and not become a U.S. citizen, even though they're trying to do everything right, simply for accidentally being registered to vote, receiving the card, and then showing up to vote. So we want to make sure that we are preventing that from happening in the first place.
Well, when my friends asked the the counter person at the clerk's office, well, how do you know that they can vote? The answer was, well, we just have to trust them, that they're a citizen.
Exactly.
When they say that. Okay, last night on the Eigel Ashcroft gubernatorial debate, this question was asked. Jay Ashcroft said, hey, I've been trying to get the legislature to tell me that I have the right to use my own voter registration form rather than the federal voter registration form. The legislature has not done that. Why?
I'm not exactly sure why it has not been done, but even just a simple elections bill these past 2 years, we have not been able to get more done.
What would you do? What would you do?
What I do is I would continue working with the legislature to get that done. We're seeing on the federal level the push on the SAVE Act that passed the House that would require proof of citizenship at the time of registration. The biggest hurdle is the federal government right now, because the federal government likes to lay claim that they control the process. And so that's one of the biggest things that I'm running on, is pushing back on the federal government. I'll work with the legislature, and I'll make sure that we are getting things done for Missouri.
That's Adam Schwadron. He's state rep and running for Secretary of State this cycle in a big field here in Missouri. He joins us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Representative, I saw a piece on one of the major networks, I think it was MSNBC, where they were interviewing the pro-Palestinian protesters who said in no uncertain terms, and they did a news story to surround it, that we plan to show up at the polling places in November and you're going to have to run a gauntlet of us to vote. How concerned would you be if that came to a major metro in Missouri?
If I caught wind that was happening here in Missouri, I would make sure that every single police organization knows what's happening, because that right there is clear intimidation, and that would be a violation of the law. And my biggest concern would be those areas where you have the high Jewish population, because being Jewish myself, as the only practicing Jewish member of the legislature, I'm on heightened alert with that situation. We've seen the protesters down in Jefferson City where they tried to interrupt the speech from the general counsel. And so the high Jewish populations in the St. Louis area and the Kansas City area, I think you would have to have a heightened security presence, just in case, maybe not a presence, but on call, to protect all voters in their ability to cast a ballot freely and fairly.
State Representative Adam Schwadron is our guest. He's a state representative from St. Charles, one of 8 Republican candidates running for Secretary of State. Of course, the election is coming up on Tuesday, August the 6th. I want to go back, Representative, and John asked a great question, by the way, about the issue there with what he heard on the network news. But this issue of potentially illegal immigrants, that issue actually came up very late in the session. I remember we had Cindy O'Loughlin on, and there was a bill that the House, they added language, it would ask voters to ban non-citizens from voting, and language involving foreign entities as well. And a former state rep here in Columbia, Chris Kelly, a former judge, reached out to me via Twitter, and he saw my story, and he said, the Constitution in Missouri says voters must be citizens. And I'll say that again. I'm quoting directly what he said. The Missouri Constitution says voters must be citizens. So how do you respond to that with what he's saying?
Well, what the Constitution actually says in Article 8 is that all citizens are eligible to vote. And so we're just changing the simple word of all to only. And so when you listen to how that sentence flows, all citizens are able to vote versus only citizens are able to vote. That's a key word change, and that's all we're pushing for, and that actually will be on the November ballot this year, pending the outcome of the lawsuit that was filed to prevent people from being able to vote on that change.
So that would be just one word instead of all citizens are eligible to vote. That proposal would say only citizens are eligible to vote, correct?
That is 100% correct.
Okay.
Can you talk to us a little bit? I mean, one other thing that the Secretary of State is in charge of is initiative petitions. Obviously, a big debate has been ongoing about initiative petition reform. Can you tell us what your stance is on that?
Yeah, I'm 100% in favor of initiative petition reform. For me, it's the simple fact that our Constitution is the foundation for our government, and public policy does not belong in our Constitution. So I want to make sure that we have a higher threshold to amend the Constitution. But I'm also the only person out there that has sponsored legislation that would have a higher threshold for the legislature to change any voter-approved statutory initiative petition measure. Because what we're seeing is statutory IT measures can be changed by the legislature. Constitutional always has to go to a vote of the people. So we're seeing all of these policy ideas being driven to the Constitution because the groups that are sponsoring them do not want to see the legislature change them. And that's why I think we need to protect the Constitution with the initiative petition there. And we also need to prevent the legislature from being able to easily change any statutory initiative petition measure.
All right. Well, Representative Schwadron, look, it sounds like you have some solid ideas for reform and trying to get maybe us to number one in the heritage ranking, right?
I would absolutely love to do that.
I guess Jay Ashcroft's done a great job of raising us from below 10th to, above that, and now there's more work to be done. So thanks for filling us in, and I think a lot of people are really surprised to hear that, in fact, their vote may be neutralized by an illegal or any non-citizen. I mean, think they have legitimate photo ID cards. If you've got a visa, you're on a green card, you're here doing research at University of Missouri in Columbia. I mean, I can see that happens easily. We got to put a lid on that. Thanks for bringing it to light.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure.
All right, Representative Adam Schwadron, and it's spelled Schwadron if you want to do some searching on the web for Adam. Thanks very much. All right.
little feel-good story, and it involves a little kid, so it's like even better, right? Of course, this is a viral TikTok, and it involves the love between a daughter and a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this from ABC, their worldwide branch. And it's the story of a 5-year-old girl named Zoe. She has autism. And up until the last couple of months, she's been almost completely nonverbal. But her parents have found just recently that when they give her creative outlets or, arts and crafts, things like that, something about that outlet has helped her start to speak a little bit. And they're making slow progress there, but she likes to do videos on her mom's phone, and that's another way that they can kind of encourage her to speak. And the mother had never heard Zoe express any sort of emotion toward her parents, but Zoe took this video on her mom's phone, and it's gone super viral.
This is the grass. This is the sky. This is the clouds. This is my car. This is my house. And there is my beautiful mom. She's the best mom. I love her so much. And she's the best mom in the whole world.
Wow.
Isn't that sweet?
Oh, that is really, that is precious.
That is the first time that Zoe's mom has heard her say that she loves her mom. And it just so happens that it's on video now, and so she'll always be able to hear Zoe's little voice saying, "I love you, Mom," for the first time. So
wow. Isn't that that's stunning?
It's really sweet.
That is just stunning. It's amazing. I don't know if you've heard of savant syndrome, but there are some autistic kids who are really just incredibly IQ, just out of the orbit, brilliant. And sometimes if these kids find the right outlet, like you said, all of a sudden this explosion of cognitive ability, they just have the processing to get it to the rest of the world and to interact with the world differently. We had the pleasure of interviewing Temple Grandin in the past.
Man.
Helene and I. You know about
her.
Temple Grandin.
Yes.
It was an awkward interview just because of the communication. I wasn't even done with the sentence by a microsecond and the answer came out. But I mean, she's legendary. She revolutionized the way animals are treated.
The cattle shoot.
Yeah, yeah. You know that with your animal studies, agricultural studies.
She essentially developed more humane ways for to run cattle through the chute.
Yep.
So that they're calmer and it's just a more peaceful experience.
They called her the cattle whisperer at the time.
Yeah.
And it really is, it's not only But Hannah, I wanted to know what you thought of this little clip of the Democrat nominee for President of the United States. And I'm just thinking, because I think she was speaking to you.
Chronological fact. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant. They make really bad decisions.
Are you ready to contribute to that? What is it now? 100 million that she's raised off? I don't know what it is at this point. Are you ready to contribute?
Is she wrong though?
I was gonna say she's not wrong.
Hannah is like an exception to the rule, but have you met an 18 to 24-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, especially when I first started college, I made a lot of stupid choices. So I mean, I don't necessarily think it's doing anything to inspire young voters to join her camp. But she's not wrong. She's not.
So you think most young people are that self-aware that they'd I think, well, the way I heard that, to be honest, if it was some Republican person that said that, I'd say, oh, they just mean they're not wise, they're not experienced, Stupid implies low IQ.
I think, not that this excuses it, I think she was trying to make a joke, and maybe it just didn't hit with you. I don't know. I haven't seen young people up in arms about this, but
I wondered what the buzz was. Okay.
I think a lot of times after even just a half second of reflection, you can go, yeah, I kind of am stupid. And I still fall in that 18 to 24 window, so I can say that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I just wondered if it was really offending a lot of, because, well, let's see. Some have said, Hannah, that some people in your generation are thin-skinned and a little snowflakey. Some have said that. I've never said that, but some have said that. So I wondered if this kind of a thing would be like a major macro aggression and be taken very offensively and really distance some young people from her, but probably not. They take it as a joke, right?
At least from what I've seen.
But you're more mature than the average 23-year-old.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't, it's one of those never say, never.
Yeah.
What? Never say always. I don't know.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you mean. Let's talk
See,
to
I'm so stupid. I can't get it out.
Let's talk to James on line one. How you doing, James? Welcome into the program.
Good morning, Dr. Tobler. First time I've ever called in the morning talk to you. First time caller, I guess.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you, bro.
Hey, you brought up a little while ago, 7:30 hour, about the debate last night.
Yeah.
It was actually aired the night before, but it didn't play till last night in St. Louis, the gubernatorial debate, GOP. Yeah. I've heard you mention the word arrogance before on your show.
Yeah.
I thought it was very arrogant on Kehoe's part. This is the second debate he has not showed up for.
Are you voting for Trump? He didn't
show up. Yes, I'm voting for Trump. Again, I'm talking to Dr. Tobler. Dr. Tobler, what is your take on
Well, you know what?
Wow.
Well, we've had this discussion before, and Stephanie made a good point when I called Mike Kehoe out, who we've interviewed, and I seems like a decent guy. I haven't seen any problems. But I think when a guy does, I called Donald Trump out. I said, yeah, maybe politically smart, but I don't think it plays well with Randy Tobler, because I think if you can't enter into the fray, you get a strike against you in my book. But
I think it does too.
Okay.
I think it shows you're arrogant. This is the second debate he's ducked. I know he's got all the money, and he's hoping to buy his way into the governor's mansion, but I don't know if that's going to work this time.
Now Stephanie had said, and I had because you don't want to disagree with Stephanie, James. Let me tell you, it's not
I know,
pretty.
but she's all in for Kehoe. We all know that.
No, but what I'm saying is, you made a good point, Stephanie, when you said, hey, he had other engagements. Okay, and I gave you the benefit of the doubt. But last night, the moderators of the debate, well, I saw it last night. It was recorded earlier in the day or the day before. They made a point of saying, look, we had conversations with the Kehoe campaign. We were willing to change this, and they just didn't want to go there, is essentially what he said. I can play that at the beginning if you want. But my point is that troubles me. If they purposely, for political reasons, distance themselves, I don't think that is the best course for most GOP voters in Missouri. That's just my opinion, but that's why I'm not a political consultant. Stephanie?
And if he can't stand up to a debate, what kind of governor is he going to be? Is he going to be another Jay Nixon like Ferguson?
Okay.
What kind of backbone is he going to have?
Let's hear what Stephanie has to say. Thanks, James. Appreciate the call. Call again.
I mean, are you voting for Trump? If we're not going to criticize Trump for that, then why are we criticizing Mike Kehoe for that? And again, if we're talking about issues and we're not just puffing out our chests. And yeah, I mean, my association and business affiliation with Kehoe is public. I'm a Kehoe supporter, known him my whole life. But if we're not going to criticize Trump for that, then why are we taking that out against Kehoe? I would say, in addition, if we're focusing rather than just puffing out our chests, and we're focusing on what's the purpose of the debate, it's to figure out what people's stance is on the issues. What about Kehoe's positions is unclear. He's been on this show. We've asked him a whole bunch of questions. We've taken your questions from the text line. He's done Zimmer News Network.
He did our ZNN forum that we've been posting on the Wake Up in Missouri Facebook page.
His positions are out there. I mean, that's the purpose of the debate, is to learn more about the candidates. He's not, I mean, what are you confused about? I mean, you have the information you need.
I'm going to be honest. I watched a good portion of this debate last night between Eigel and Ashcroft.
Did you learn anything new?
No, and I don't necessarily think that either one of them came out of it looking any better than they went into it. The moderators, I loved the moderators. They were tough. They really held their feet to the fire. If they asked one of the candidates a question, and, politicians love to give fluff answers or divert when they don't have an answer, they would kind of call them out on it and be like, okay, thanks, but that's not the question I asked you.
Right.
And if
they were tough moderators, and I was sitting there going, man, if I'm Mike Kehoe, I'm sitting at home like going, whew, dodged a bullet there, because I don't think Eigel or Ashcroft came out of that debate looking very good.
But you're also not sitting at home, because if you want to know where he was yesterday,
Poor
he was
choice of words.
honoring two individuals who have been raising money for veterans' homes through programs like Shoot Like a Girl and Northwest Missouri UTV Patriot Riders. And these two individuals have been raising money to support veterans' homes, which is part of his job as lieutenant governor. And so, if I want him arguing over, and calling names, or do I want him, doing his job as lieutenant governor and supporting our veterans? I think he was in the right place yesterday. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And I guess, it just comes down to how people I think people are not really, sometimes in a primary battle, they assume that most of the candidates on the right side of the fence are going to have most of those Venn diagrams are going to overlap, to use Kamala terms.
Well,
and so then it comes down to a matter of character. And I'm not saying not showing up at a debate shows you have a poor character, but I think people are increasingly suspicious of political manipulation and maneuvering. People don't like that. I didn't like it about Donald Trump, to be very, very fair to myself. I was very vocal about that. I think it's a mistake. You should show up. If you've got great positions, show up and stand there and defend them.
But how many do you have to show up for? Because there's already been a debate. There was one at the statewide GOP days. He showed up to that one.
I agree.
So if he showed up to the second one but not the third, do you think people would still be complaining? They'd still be complaining.
And
then they would have a seventh debate, and they'd be like, oh, you missed one.
You make a good point.
You need to go to all seven.
Well, and I will say, too, I know James mentioned that he's a first-time caller into Wake Up in Missouri. I hear James call into the Gary Nolan show on the radio station quite often.
James is very confrontational.
Yeah, we talk a lot about never Trumpers. James is just a never Kehoe-er, so Mike Kehoe could solve world hunger, and James would still not like him.
I don't.
And this is one thing that I would encourage other people to do, and I noticed it yesterday because I have put out some things that said, I like Kehoe. And people, and it's weird because rather than on your own page, you saying, I like Eigel. Like James should go on his own page and say, I like Eigel. Rather than that, I just get hate on my page.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think that's stirred by the candidates themselves. If you like somebody, tell me why you like them. Don't just hate on who I like.
Can I tell you something about maybe I'm weird. Folks, tell me if I'm weird. Well, I am.
I
am weird. Okay. I don't know. I told my wife today as I walked out the door, I said, it just seems to me as though most people that I meet every day in my life are good people. The guy at Lee's Tire that took care of my brush hog tires yesterday, and the guy that changed my wife's tire the other day, and the guy that helps us at Buckheit's and the guy at Tractor Supply.
Karen, who was at the Missouri Chamber Women's Leadership Conference yesterday, who plopped down right by me and said, "I listen every morning. I'm so happy to talk to you." Thanks, Karen.
Here's the problem, and it's going to be hard for you listening. It's going to be hard for you in the studio. It's going to be hard for everyone to admit it. If you haven't been there and done that, when you've been in a position of leadership, haven't you felt that power? Haven't you felt that temptation to use that power to sort of get that swagger? And unless you pinch yourself and remind yourself that that's a very precious position that needs to be handled with grace and care and not abused. Because I believe that good people, as they arise in political circles, they get intoxicated with power. And I'm troubled by that. And when the more power they have, the more people want to help them use their power in behalf of those people. And here is where I'm going with that. The bottom line is,
okay.
I like the person that has the least money. The guy that has the least money.
Randy's voting for Valentina.
But I'm sorry. Vulgar language on every campaign ad. No, that's a disqualifier. My point is, I think Americans are getting tired of people in high positions, highly funded by special interest groups, and money wins. I think people are getting tired of that. People want the little guy who doesn't have a lot of money. And in this case, apparently, it's Jay Ashcroft.
I mean, I agree. We all want to root for the little guy. I think that's inherent in all of us. So yeah, the guy who was raised by a single mom with multiple kids, who had to pull himself up by his bootstraps and started washing cars and then built a successful life and then went into politics after he was successful in business. Yeah, that's why I'm for Keogh. Tell me why you're for Ashcroft.
Why wouldn't Chris Wright be a good guy?
I think he's a great guy.
He does. If Chris Wright were governor, I'd be the happiest clam in the basket. I mean, and I don't know much about Chris Wright except that he's not a man that's had power for too long. I am incredibly concerned about the intoxication of power and the abuse thereof, and we see it on both sides of the aisle.
I think you bring up a good point about Chris Wright. I think there are other people in the primaries as well. I wish Chris Wright would have run for something other than statewide office as his first time out. Man. I would say the same about some of the other candidates in the races as well. I think there are people who have kind of risen up that I hope, even if they lose, they decide to seek local office or state senate, because there are some good people in the race who I think maybe are just unprepared right now for governing.
Okay, look, lightning call quickly, Michael. Sorry, we got 20 seconds here. Go.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, I was just going to put my 2 cents in on the debate. I watched about 20 minutes of it. That's all I could stand. Going to the point of, hey, if you already know your points of the candidate, it doesn't matter if they show up. I agree, but I also disagree for the fact that I learned a lot, that I don't really care for either two of those candidates last night because I saw their character.
Okay.
And,
all right.
And Bill Eigel, I like his stance, but he's a bully. I kind of want to punch him in the face.
And what's wrong with Jay?
He's kind of like Jeb Bush, just a little running the coattails of the
little too milquetoast. Okay, got it. All right, there you go. And I think that's a fair criticism. Okay, so everyone has what's important to them. Let's see what's important to John when we come back. John?
The official Olympic Jimmy hat.
All right, we'll have to listen.
Athletes in the Olympic Village will be provided with a place to sleep, eat, and, of course, condoms. As the 14,000 athletes and staff are arriving in the city, we're seeing the room tours, the videos of the infamous anti-sex beds, and a huge supply of Olympic-branded condoms in every room. They have images of the official mascots of the Paris Olympics and the Paralympics, the Phrygies, and have a little message on each packet. On the field of love, play fair. Ask for consent. Don't share more than victory. Protect yourself against STDs, and no need to be a gold medalist to wear it. The organizers say they are providing 200,000 male condoms, 20,000 female condoms, which works out to about 20 each for each of the Olympic athletes. And we heard the story about the Olympic anti-sex beds, but athletes, as we know from past years, don't really need beds to get kinky. One athlete had sex on a balcony at the 04 games in Athens. The others said they saw people getting down and dirty out in the open between the buildings. There's even been a reported orgy in a recent Olympics in a hot tub. So,
John, this is a family show.
John Marsh saying the word kinky was not on my bingo card for the week.
yeah, I'm just paraphrasing.
But also,
they kind of took it to the next level. Now you know much more than you need to about the rest of that story.
I mean, I want to win. So, yeah, I mean, like, let's make more Olympic level babies, and I think you like good genes, right? Like, if you're
there, you go.
Let's make sure these folks have more kids because we've got some Olympics to win.
Well, and Stephanie, you found this story about the Olympics, something that they're doing with one of the dating apps that are pretty popular.
Oh yeah, it's Grindr, right? Which is
Randy, do you know what Grindr is?
No.
John?
No.
Why, certainly.
Grindr?
Grindr.
I do not have an account. No.
This doesn't sound good. Where we're going with
this? It's essentially Tinder, but for gay men.
What is
males.
Tinder?
It's like a app where you meet people, but maybe not for like romantic purposes.
Oh,
you swipe
app?
right, swipe
So
left.
it's a hookup app. Okay.
But for males. But I guess they've disabled the app in Olympic Village.
Oh, you mean it's a gay hookup thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Grindr
But so on a lot of those apps, you can change your location on there to match with people in your area. They've disabled that feature for like Olympic Village in Paris because they don't want people trying to hook up with Olympians for the next 3 weeks.
Why did they just do the gay hookup thing? Why didn't they disable
Well, it was just a decision from this app's
that company
owner
in particular.
Yeah.
Other companies could choose to do that
when I
as
saw
well.
you guys texting about talking about this, I was thinking about that 573-874-9390. Whatever is on your mind to feel good. Now, I want to remind you again, I'm feeling good because someone did say it's okay to say some more. I've been taking a lot of abuse since yesterday about s'more versus some more.
Now, the ratio is not working out in your favor.
I know. But that's okay. I've modified. I will reform my pronunciation thereof for you.
Even of hammock?
But when I'm with the family. No, you eat your s'more in a hammock. It's not spelled hammock. It's spelled hammock. Okay. So the Olympics start tonight. John, you had an interesting feature. We're going to censor that as we do the podcast so that the kids can listen to it. No. So is today the opening ceremony tonight with all of the regalia and all the big deal in Paris? I wonder how they're going to do. Did they get the River Seine? Did they get that sort of cleaned up? You know, there was the poop protest you talked about.
I believe it is clean enough.
Did the mayor swim in it though? Finally, yeah, she did. Ugh, I don't know.
Whatever, sort of like the Hudson in New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Gen Z apparently has a major beef with Michelle Obama. Is that right, Hannah?
Okay.
This is sort of a fun one.
Yes. Let me pull up this audio.
I have it.
Okay.
Here we go. Listen to this.
For everyone who's saying Michelle Obama should run, I think you're forgetting one key demographic, and that's the Gen Z voter. Sure, she has cool style. Sure, she has swag, but I am never voting for that woman after what she did to my school lunches.
Now, does anyone even know what she's talking about? Because I got fired up about this. It might be too niche to my generation, maybe.
I was too old.
I remember.
I do remember, but I didn't have to suffer through it.
Oh,
it was funny. I was conflicted about that, but I'll tell you about that. But what did you think about it?
School lunches pre the Obama administration. A lot of times you would get like a little brownie or a little cookie, like a little bit of dessert a couple days a week on your lunch tray, right?
Mm-hmm.
After the Obamas came into office, Michelle worked on all of these nutritional standards for school lunches, and the quality of school lunches went downhill greatly, and we were never allowed to have treats. And so I even remember being in school and being pretty young and being like, oh, Michelle Obama.
Yeah, but weren't they...
Not knowing at all what we were talking about.
Didn't she introduce salad bars and you get more healthy snacks? I remember.
But see, that's not what we focused on. We focused on the fact that we no longer got a cookie with lunch, right?
Yeah. So I was conflicted because politically I was sort of upset that they centralized this top-down decision. On the other hand, it's true that, our life expectancy is going down in this country even before COVID. And a lot of that has to do with chronic diseases. And chronic diseases have their root in nutrition and lifestyle, which in turn has its root in how kids are brought up and learn to eat. So I thought, well, okay, it's a good influence on these kids. Someone needs to teach them how to eat right, even if their folks aren't.
But I was like 8 years old when Obama came into the White House.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about that at the time. I was just
worried.
Wanted
a brownie.
Yeah, I was just worried about what was on my lunch tray and how good it tasted.
That's why you were in school, because you were a young skull full of mush then. You needed to be...
I remember when this all went down with Michelle Obama and the Obamas changing it. Made me think back to Ronald Reagan in his administration, where they kind of tweaked the rules for vegetables and said... Ketchup is a vegetable.
Oh, yeah.
Therefore, it would qualify as one of the vegetables on the school lunch
with its
tray.
high fructose corn syrup. Oh,
they did propose it, but that didn't last very long.
Well, and I guess I'm the only one who has kids who are currently eating school lunch, and to be quite honest, I don't know what they eat. I just told them I don't have time to pack your lunch or anything like that, so you're going to eat what you're served. I will say though, I think some of these rules must be out the window because I will notice if they run up the charges, and I'm like, I just put money in that account. Like, what is happening here? And you can kind of see what they're ordering, and it's like no regular lunch and then all this extra charges, and I'm like, what? Excuse me, what is that there, son?
Like a snack bar?
Oh, it's ice cream, like extra, like, and I'm like, so we didn't eat our regular lunch, but we got 2 ice cream cones, and I'm like, is that allowed? Like, who's watching you?
Well,
you know,
so
and apparently it is.
The way it works, and it was like this when I was in school. You'd get your lunch tray. and, the government has all sorts of things to say about what comes on that lunch tray. And then you could eat that. But then there was always a snack bar. And you could even do that instead of getting a tray if you wanted to. It was expensive. But you could get things like soft pretzels with nacho cheese. Bosco sticks were a big thing, which is like bread stuffed with mozzarella cheese. Those are super good.
That's really good for you, too.
They'd have all sorts of, chips and crackers and whatever. But that was sort of separate. And I'm guessing because it wasn't being offered on your lunch tray, they could probably get away with it. But I can't imagine how much money schools make off of those snack bars.
In nutrition is a big issue. And Hannah points out, her growing up, obviously, Randy, when you and I, it was a little different. But I do remember there was President Carter actually had a proposal dealing with school lunches and stuff. But it is tied in with this. You're mentioning Ashland and your kids down there in Ashland, Stephanie. I was down there. I know you were as well. It was maybe in March or April. Dory Slinker had an event, and a big event. It was just packed, but they raised several $1,000s to reduce the lunch debt for the students at Southern Boone. And I was, they still had a little bit of a lunch debt after that, but I went to it, but it was fantastic. But again, it goes to show you not only you got the nutrition thing, but even in a town like Ashland that has a pretty good economy, people still struggle sometimes.
Well, and during COVID, they did free lunches
and free breakfast. Yeah, they waived all of it for almost like 2-3 years for everybody. And I would just tell people, I mean, it's tough when you're in a small town and you get in a pinch because there is free and reduced lunch. And so I think in Ashland and other small communities, people who would qualify don't want to fill the form out to receive the assistance, right?
Because they're embarrassed.
And then they run up the debt because they can't pay. And so, times change and we all have seasons in life, and whether you have medical bills or you lose your job or whatever, if the assistance is available, I'd encourage people, if you qualify, if Hannah's getting offered free money for her student loan, she's going to take the free money if you need it. But certainly, that debt there, it's been an issue in Ashland. I think it's in other small communities as well.
It is. You're absolutely right, and I second that. And if you qualify for it, that you're entitled to that, and and no question about it. I grew up, and my things were so much different. My dad was a bricklayer. They didn't have any none of the COVID money, anything like that. If there was a storm he didn't work, so I did qualify, and I wasn't ashamed. Although some kids did mock me at times. It was maybe 1 or 2 weeks out of the year, but it had to do with weather. And that is, I think maybe that's what the families are worried about, because that can be just horrible, picking on some child because they're on free and reduced lunch. I think that is horrible.
Well, what's nice is when they go through the lunch line, like, unless the kid tells their friends,
nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
And if you watch, have you guys gone back and watched Hillbilly Elegy on Netflix? There's
it's so good.
It's so good if you haven't seen it. But there's a scene on there where J.D. Vance he was living with his grandmother, and she was negotiating with the Meals on Wheels delivery guy, saying, "Do you have any extra food? My grandson's with me. Can I have a little bit more?" Wow. And so and look where he's at now. I mean,
that's right.
It's a thing.
It's a big deal to be helped, and we all need help. But sometimes
it's worth saying though that, boy, you got to be delicate about this. But in times past, when people accessed social welfare services, there was the expectation that it was a temporary hand up, and it wasn't a permanent hammock. It was a safety net,
and it was quite
not
a
hammock.
stigma attached to it.
And I'm afraid, and there was a stigma. Okay, you can use the word stigma, and I think, okay, that's okay. It was self-imposed on people. We've come to a point in this country where there is so much entitlement and generational dependence on that for whatever reason. I think that in the end, that's not helpful for the person, because if you come to the point where that is your expectation, and if it's not just a little uncomfortable to expect help from others, you become entitled to it. And so I don't want to. I'm not trying to aim my gun at the victim here, metaphorically. What I'm saying is, you're right. People do have a hand up, but we've come to a point in this country where, like, I deserve a free lunch and a free breakfast, and by God, I deserve it. Well, okay, maybe you need it for now, but does anyone deserve it? for their entire life and their children's life. We pay for now vast numbers of children in this state. The pregnancy is paid for, their upbringing is paid for, their medical care is paid for. My folks raised kids in an impoverished environment. My dad was a school teacher. He took a second and third job. Their parents would do something called FHB during the Depression. When family came back, when family had guests at the table, my grandpa would pass the word around, FHB. What does that mean? Family holdback. You hold back what you're going to eat so that you as a family can help others. So you're right. Take advantage if it's there, but it should not be an expectation of a lifetime support.
And I understand what you're saying.
It should be an encouragement to achieve.
And I think what we're talking about, I understand what you're saying, but I think what we're talking about here is temporary. And maybe somebody's down on their luck.
Absolutely.
And, in my case, it was dad with storms or something. But Hannah's right. Today, they do it quietly. In my time, you got your name called out. You had to go up to the front of the room. And kids were mean.
Before you all say, hard-hearted Randy here, I've given out hundreds of thousands of dollars of free care to people that need it throughout my career, okay? And I participated in hospitals and led hospitals that have given millions of dollars in free care. So this is not about helping the needy.
No,
this is about, it's not helpful to not encourage someone to become unneedy. That's all.
I understand. You have certainly been very generous.
Here goes. Here's Tricia.
There's no doubt about it.
Tricia, quickly, what's up?
Well, I am an RN, and when I lived in Illinois, I had a job in the Randolph-Monroe County Health Department. I was the coordinator of the Women, Infants, and Children's program. And the salary they gave me allowed me to be eligible for my program. And I got reduced lunch for my children.
Good.
So
you should have had a higher salary, by the way.
Well, when the county commissioners got money to divide amongst the county road department, the county health department, and the county nursing home, they said in 1984, no, 86.
Okay, your point, Tricia.
They said that they gave money to the road department because women just worked outside the home to buy Tupperware and Avon.
Oh, man. Well, that's that's not good.
So
that's not good.
When I applied to a University of Missouri and got a job here, the state of Illinois was not allowing women to move outside the state with the children for any reason whatsoever. But I had that financial information in front of me.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, very powerful stuff. I'm sorry, we were up against, we got to get to the market report, but it's powerful stuff.
Yes, it is.
All right, we were gonna.
Shocker.
No,
there's a breaking news alert if I've ever heard one. Stephanie Bell has a dead electronic device.
It's plugged in, and luckily my computer guy downtown Jeff City, Kevin. I'm gonna.
So it looks to me like the close yesterday was about down half a point on the
blue
S&P
screen
500.
of death.
Yeah,
it's
S&P 500 down half a point yesterday. Nasdaq down a point. Boy, there's been a swoon in there. Dow Jones not much change yesterday, and my computer here shows that the pre-markets are looking, sort of not much going on there. Yeah, up about 0.5%.
Randy to the rescue.
There might be a little bit of a resurgence, is what I'm seeing, and oil continues to drop.
He owes me because we are definitely out of time for the story I wanted to get to, and people are big mad about Southwest Airlines. Because they are changing their open seating policy. And that's apparently why people love Southwest Airlines. And people are saying, no, they're just going to make us go to assigned seats so they can start charging us more for this whole thing.
Yeah.
And so people are really mad. They think, so Southwest is saying, we're going to change our policy. And people are like, that's why I pick you in the first place. So whether or not that'll be a good thing for Southwest or a bad thing, I don't know. It's going to be tough for them, I think.
Well, so we had GDP growth that was a little bit inflamed compared to expectations.
It was good, yeah.
Now, the inflation gauge just out says it rose 2.5%, so that was about in line with expectations. That's going to give Kamala to say, look, my plan, now it's going to be Kamalanomics, right? Kamalanomics.
I'm not going to try to say that.
Say Kamalanomics 3 times. Kamalanomics. And she'll claim that, oh, look at this. We managed a soft landing. Look at how great we are. Why would you want to change? Don't change horses in the middle.
Oh, yeah, there we go. I like that take. I was going to say Kamala Harris. We typically have a rule you can't nominate Joe Biden as loser of the week because
we're going to have to make that same rule.
It's just
Kamala.
a given. Yeah. Kamala Harris, I think, can be added to that list. I guess bets are still on if she's going to actually be the nominee after the Democrats' national convention that's coming up, next week? 2 weeks?
I think she already has it. They're going to do a roll call vote on the 1st, I believe, before the convention.
We'll see. We'll see. Other winner of the week, the Mizzou athletes that we have going to the Olympics. I know I can never say her name correctly, John. Carissa Schweitzer?
Schweitzer, yep.
Close enough?
The 5K and 10K champion from Mizzou.
Yep, and there's a swimmer and a diver on the men's side from Mizzou that are going to the Olympics, so congratulations to those guys. And Team USA, I know for What's Hot with Hannah earlier in the week, we were looking at women's basketball, and the WNBA All-Stars team actually beat Team USA in their All-Stars game, so that wasn't a great look for the women's Team USA basketball team, but they won their first game in the Olympics against Germany, so they're winners because they're off to a better start.
All right. Let's see. Stephanie, who do you have? Let's go for you.
I think I might be pulling Brian Hauswirth, and I think I just have 3 winners for today. First, I will nominate Karen, who I met yesterday. The Missouri Chamber put on a conference in Excelsior Springs. Hundreds of women from all over the state gathered for a leadership conference to just have a day talking about business and women's role in business, and it was a great day, and hear from other women leaders. But Karen came up to me and says she listens every morning, and so it was just fun to have a quick chat with Karen. Also, I am going to nominate Jefferson City. Made a big time list. It was named the nation's most desirable city by a real estate agent media company, Agent Advice. And they looked at a whole bunch of different stuff. They looked at, 11 different metrics, including home size and price, which Brian has talked about already this morning, top ranking schools, low crime rate, nearby attractions, and in putting together all of those facts and figures, Jefferson City made the number 1.
Wow.
In front of Idaho Falls, Indiana, Enid, Oklahoma, Midland, Michigan, and Appleton, Wisconsin. You can Google it and see the rest of the folks on the list. But Jefferson City over time has made a couple of those lists, like most beautiful capital city, I think most beautiful state capital, one of those lists. So if you're listening from outside of Jefferson City and looking to relocate, they're telling you it's a good thing. The other person I'm going to nominate is Mike Zweifel, who in Boone County. He had a post yesterday, and I thought it was really insightful. And I've been trying to think of a way to say this, and I think he said it better than I can. So I'm not going to read his statement, but one of the points he made was, I'm going to read part of it. Not too long ago, when the Mo GOP grassroots didn't like it wasn't too long ago when they didn't like the national GOP establishment making endorsements in Missouri races as they were interfering with our races. And, we've seen endorsements fly in from people like Ted Cruz, from Matt Gaetz, from all of this. And, I think in the way that I've been thinking about it is I want to make Missouri great again, right? But I also want to make Missouri again. And I feel like there's so much, we saw the Freedom Caucus shenanigans in D.C., and then the National Freedom Caucus people come to Missouri and bring it here. And I don't want to bring more of DC to Missouri. I want to talk about Missouri issues and make Missouri. I mean, there's a reason why I live here, and it's not to just replicate what's happening in DC. And so I do think Mike had a good point about, we're now like, ooh, you got a national endorsement. No, like I want, endorsements. I don't want that. I don't want Missouri to just be, I don't want people from outside Missouri picking who my candidates are. I want to pick. Yep. I want Randy to pick. I want Mike Zweifel to pick.
You don't really want me to pick. You'd rather pick, but that's okay.
I don't want you to pick.
Excelsior Springs, by the way, a historic town, Excelsior Springs.
It was my first time at the Elms. Oh my goodness, it was beautiful.
Yeah,
the Elms, that's where Harry Truman spent his 1948 election night. He had a glass of milk and had I think he had some oatmeal, but he went to bed thinking he had lost the election, but that's where he stayed in 1948.
Really? Okay.
Holy cow.
Doug Ritchie, who's the state rep up there, has talked to me about a historic hotel.
Your winners and losers, Brian Hauswirth.
No losers. I've got a couple winners here. DeCarlin Seawood and his staff. I know they're listening, and I'm going to give them a winner for doing the obviously the budget address and making the department directors available. And I encourage them to continue to do that. Doesn't always have to be a budget address, but have everybody available, because I had several really good questions about how much the budget is, CPD's budget. We were able to get everything because they were all in one room. So
big stories up on the web.
Yes, it is. I'll have much more on Monday, but 939theeagle.com. I went to take care of my mom last week. It's called Fred's Complete Auto Care in Wentzville. Something called a trap on the bottom of my car was literally falling off on I-70, making a terrible noise.
Did you hit another armadillo?
No, not on this one. No,
was that the speed trap?
No, it was. It's apparently
a trap.
It's and he
well,
had
what
to go
was
under
the symptom? Why did you end up at Fred's?
It was making noise. I thought I had a flat tire. So anyway, it was the closest exit, and he took care of me on that. So congratulations. And lastly, my mom. I'm going to put this up. Maybe Hannah can get this.
Look at that.
My mother. I'm trying not to choke up on this because mom had a stroke, but she actually painted in St. Louis. This is Lafayette Square, and I know it's. Stephanie Bell has said, let me push
those are
small wins, wins. But no, she did a great job.
Those are World's Fair homes, if I'm not mistaken.
They are
1904.
They are. So she did some painting when I took care of her, and I just encourage everybody. If you know somebody in a city, appreciate it.
So she's making progress.
That's fighting, great. And just if anybody out there knows someone in assisted living or anybody, make sure you visit them. They really love to see visitors.
All right. And Brian rarely has losers. He's Happy Pants Brian. That's what we call him. All right, John Marsh, your winners and losers.
Well, I've got a loser and a winner, so there you go. And our loser, I'm going to beat up on the Missouri Supreme Court when they halted the immediate release this week of Christopher Dunn, the guy who had been cleared for the judge after spending, 30-some years in prison for a killing he did not commit. Mm-hmm. Then at the 11th hour, when he was set to be released, sitting there at the desk signing the paperwork, the Supreme Court came down with a ruling, said not so fast, so that is under review. We do have a winner, none other than Trump ally Representative Nancy Mace, who went after Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle and told her, you are full of you-know-what today. And there's our winner.
All right.
We have a nomination coming in on the texter at 874-9390.
What is this?
It's listener John, who is nominating our John for winner of the week. Because he was able to work the word kinky into one of his stories this week.
All right, I have a relatively lengthy list. You talked about Mike Zweifel, and I'm not going to be able to name all of the officials at the Central Committee for Boone County, but Tony Lupo, who's on his way out, he's a winner. Mm-hmm. Mike Zweifel, who's been so instrumental in all the things there, and a great event on Tuesday. Allison, Tony's wife. Who else am I missing here? But all of you in the Central Committee, there's going to be a reorganization in August, I believe. And we want to thank you for all your hard work on behalf of local, state, and federal candidates from the Republican Party. So good for that group. And Tony Lupo, especially a big shout out for you. Lots of yeoman's work as the leader of that group for a long time. And related to that, Lisa Meyer is a winner. Why? Because in this discussion about short-term rentals, it was not recognized widely, but she got some amendment through. She voted no on the bill, but she got some amendment through. One of them was every person licensed to engage in the activities. Basically, they don't have to have a particular type of policy, which can be very restrictive. They need to have covering bodily injury for renters, accidental death to cover all claims arising, but it doesn't have to be a specific type of insurance. So that's one thing. And it lessened the burden. And also, they don't have to pay a license fee. So good for her.
Yeah, and she's on my winners list. Just her emails are so helpful. If you get on her email list, she really breaks things down and provides information that I don't think you would normally get.
Right. So instead of a separate policy, all they need to do is have a rider on their homeowner policy. That's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And they don't need to get a business license. That is your votes in action. Lisa Meyer is a representative of the people. She's for the people, and good for her. So good for Lisa.
Hard on very good point.
All right. She's a winner. Now, also, Boone Health employees who have had to endure a Joint Commission on the Accreditation of Hospital Organization survey. That is like a Takamata Inquisition. When those people swoop down, I talked to one of the department leaders yesterday who I know very well, work with a lot. These people can be ruthless. They can put the white glove. They can raise a ceiling tile and put a white glove on one of the frames and catch you on them. And other times they can be nice. You never know what you're going to get. So congratulations to all of you. If JCHO is gone, hope you have a nice lot of adult beverages or mocktails, whatever your choice is. So that's it. Now on the losers, those of you who are aficionados of jazz, I think you're all losers this week because John Mayall, who was the British founder of the Blues Breakers, died.
if you've heard him here on this program, will be their featured speaker. So just wanted to let everyone know. Of course, we'll be finding out soon. The secretary has, I believe, until August 6th, the primary date, to certify the measures for the ballot. So we'll be finding out.
Still waiting on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
The deadline is August 6th.
Wow, just a week, well, a little more than a week away, yeah. Holy
And we're
cow.
waiting, we got 4 in the hopper.
Wow. So I thought that would have been done by now. Well, no, it's a hard work, right? They have to go down line by line by line and certify every...
So many debates. I don't actually know.
Oh, look at that.
I would say in the past, I think the standard practice has been that you always get that decision that last week.
I see.
He's waiting on, or he.
So many debates. That was a good one. Good for you. That was good for you. John, you got anything left over?
Yeah, we've been watching the story about Avaz now having to rely on outside help for their fire protection. They had a meeting last night to try to actively recruit some potential volunteer firefighters, and only 2 guys showed up. And it all follows when city leaders, you might remember, fired their volunteer chief, Rebecca Stone, and then her entire department quit. So Avaz hopes to have a new chief and hopefully a fire department back in place starting next month.
Wow, some
politics in the fire
there,
service.
Huh? Yep. There's a feel good moment that I had the other night when I was just sort of perusing the Twitter, and I saw that this speaker, she was one of these everyday speakers, everyday American speakers. Every night they had those at the RNC at the convention, and there was a former school teacher named Annette Albright, and she posted something that I thought was just really, really interesting. It caught my attention. She said, "Don't always believe what you hear about people. Get to know people for yourself." So last Thursday, so this was written, earlier this week, as I awaited hair and makeup before my speech, a man entered the room, and I watched as people began to excitedly gather around him. I was seated alone as I was engulfed in nerves and contemplating all the possible mistakes I could make in front of a national audience. This man made his way to the back of the room, grabbed a bottle of water, and asked me, was anyone sitting at the empty chair of my table? I told him no, and he sat down. He asked me if I was a speaker. I told him yes. He asked me if I was nervous, and I replied yes. This is just an everyday American school teacher speaking in just a few moments at the RNC, right? Picture this moment. Nervous was written all over my face. The man quickly grabbed my hands and began to pray. After the prayer, he gave me tips on how to speak to the audience, and he assured me that I had this, and I was going to be awesome. After about 15 minutes, I feel comfortable enough to tell the man that my coworker is a huge fan, and would he mind taking a pic? The man looks at me and laughs. He immediately reached for my cell phone and said, "We're going to make a video." We made the video, and it was epic. Here's that video. Oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh, I had it. Oh. Anyway, you know who the man was? It was Tucker Carlson. Here it is.
Cool.
It's Tucker Carlson. I'm with your friend Annette. Backstage at the Republican convention, we're both speaking. We're both a little nervous. Annette seems a little less nervous than I do. Annette seems to have this under control, actually. We're just talking about you, and I wanted to say hi. I'm sorry you're missing it, but we're thinking about you. See ya.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Isn't that something? Everyone thinks of Tucker as some kind of hard-hearted wacko, you know?
And he just knocked off Rogan.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, on the top podcast or whatever, and everyone's saying, I think that happened yesterday. So people are listening. I mean, he's got a big fan base.
Well, and we're doing a ticket giveaway to go see Tucker Carlson.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be in Kansas City in September. We're giving away a couple pairs of tickets. You can enter on the KWOS and 93.9 Eagle apps.
All right. That'll...
Cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Come see me tomorrow.